It is a very unique program, as no program like this has existed in well over 60 years. My name is John Lawit, and today we're going to talk about humanitarian parole. Humanitarian parole is for people in general who are outside of the United States and need to come into the United States for emergent or serious reasons. Typical humanitarian parole requests are to come to the United States for medical reasons, to have children come into the United States to rejoin family members, to receive medical treatment in the United States, to reunite with family members for urgent humanitarian reasons, to care for or otherwise support a seriously or terminally ill relative in the United States, to attend a funeral, to settle affairs of a deceased relative in the U.S., to come to the United States for protection from targeted or individualized harm, to participate in civil legal proceedings in the United States, or to return to the United States after their travel document has expired. Each of these different bases for humanitarian parole require different elements of evidence. The one thing that is common to all of these is that there must be somebody in the United States who will provide financial assistance to the person, because the person who's paroled into the United States is not entitled to a work visa. So they're not coming here to work. They're coming here for reasons that are covered in the humanitarian parole grounds. One of the most common is to request parole for children who are separated from their family members, because the children may have been left behind when the family members came to the United States or escaped from civil unrest in their own country. And now the parents are here and the children need to be reunited with the parents. Another one that is very common is to receive medical treatment. To come to the United States to receive medical treatment, the individual would have to be able to establish that the medical care that they're going to get in the United States is not available in their home country. They also must establish that the condition is one that cannot be treated in the home country. And finally, they have to establish that they have some sort of health insurance or other financial resources that would allow for the payment of the medical treatment without the person having to rely on any public funds in the United States. Another very common one is for individuals who have sick or dying relatives in the U.S., and the person outside the United States must come in to give care and support to the relative, either until they pass away or during a period of prolonged recovery from surgery or some other debilitating disease that prevents the person from being able to function in the United States without the assistance of the family members. Another very common type of humanitarian parole, and this covers adults and children, is because the individual has been targeted for some reason in their home country. Now, if they're being persecuted, that person could apply to be a refugee. But under the humanitarian parole program, you do not have to be fleeing persecution. The person could be targeted, for example, by a gang and have to come into the United States to save their lives so that they're not killed. Another reason they might have to come in is because a relative has had political problems in that country and the family members have been threatened by the government. This is another situation where there is a targeted or individualized harm that's about to befall the person, and they can apply to be paroled into the United States. Another one is if the person is involved in a civil lawsuit in the United States, and they must be present in the United States for the lawsuit to go forward. Either the witness in a civil lawsuit, or they may be the plaintiff in a civil lawsuit. In this way, they can still proceed forward with the litigation in the United States using a grant of humanitarian parole. By far, the most common, of course, is to help the children. And finally, if a person is outside the United States and their visa runs out because the consulate is no longer open, or if their permanent residence status expires while they're out of the United States, they can be paroled into the United States to resume their legal status here. So if you are qualified for in any of these categories, humanitarian parole may very well be the way you come to the United States. The applications do take time to be processed, but people use them all the time. And then there's other situations where certain countries have been singled out, And under particular programs that are in existence now, up to 30,000 people per month can come from each country to come to the United States. Those countries that can send up to 30,000 per month per country to the United States under grants of humanitarian parole are limited to citizens of Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Haiti. These programs were set up specifically to take the pressure off the U.S. borders, where tens of thousands of people had massed seeking to enter the United States because of economic conditions and political conditions in those countries. Now there's an orderly process that will allow up to 30,000 of these individuals from these countries to be able to apply for and enter the United States. When they come in, their grant of parole is for 2 years, and it allows them to work in the United States and get established here. There is a sponsorship requirement for these individuals, and the sponsor, of course, could be a family member, but it also could be an organization or other interested group that is willing to take care of them, house them, and provide shelter for these folks so that when they come into the United States, they can get a job, they can begin to save money, and the parole request that's granted for 2 years can be extended. This is not a green card type of program. This is a program to allow people to come into the United States for up to 2 years without having to enter the U.S. illegally. It allows for an orderly transition from the chaos at the border to an organized process so these folks can come into the United States. It is a very unique program, as no program like this has existed in well over 60 years. The program began in 2022 and is continuing on now in 2023. It's unknown how much longer the program will continue, so that if you are eligible and you are from one of these countries, it's very important that you locate someone who will be a sponsor or an organization that will be a sponsor and get your place in line and fill out the necessary applications to come into the United States. Of course, there will be background checks to screen out dangerous people, people convicted of crimes, people involved in terrorism, people involved in gangs. But in most cases, the people that are coming to the United States and are willing to travel thousands of miles, it is because they have no other choice and their situation at home is hopeless. And the governments in these countries are unable to provide any kind of protection for their citizens. And so in this way, they can come in large numbers and come to the United States and reestablish a new life here.